Well, at first we want to provide you with a more generic overview of problem gambling in Tasmania. 1.2% of adult Tasmanians are considered to be at moderate risk of developing problem gambling behavior. 5 to 10 people are affected for every person with gambling problems. And also when you look at the ripple effect, obviously communities are affected as well. Most of the clients that we are seeing in the service have hit rock bottom. They come to us, you know, at the very end of this gambling continuum. So in relation to the development of gambling-related problems, yes, in many cases a learned way of coping with or escape from life events, stress, boredom, could be depression, grieving, anxiety, trauma. So often an escape, basically time out. People describe their experience as being in the zone, being in a different headspace. So to have a 50% chance of winning the maximum prize, it needs 6.7 million button presses, takes about 188 years or 391 days of continuous play. It costs nearly $330,000 and the average price is just $2,000.
So it'd want to be an entertainment, really, wouldn't it? You're not really expecting to make money. It's a bit more like going to the movies, maybe. That's probably a really healthy way of viewing it. But certainly people get trapped in the idea that there is a jackpot and that they can win it if they can just, you know, work out the system or play on the right day. Probably these are quite intuitive, really. So the loss of control over the time and money spent gambling, the compulsion to gamble. So people are often planning, thinking a lot about how they're going to go gambling, and then when they get there, sometimes people have reported that their gambling entertainment, so to speak, has they've won. And that has happened too quickly, so they need to spend more time there as well. And certainly that contracting of their life balance, so things that they'd previously enjoyed. Often if you ask somebody who has been gambling long term, they've actually forgotten what it is to have a life outside of gambling.
Often people with gambling problems, they obviously don't talk about it and they push themselves more and more into the corner where they really can't, don't feel they can't talk to anyone. It's often very difficult for an outsider, even for family members, to find out what the problem is because of the secrecy. So the effects of problem gambling on significant others, obviously psychologically, and they are psychologically and emotionally at risk. Obviously, you know, go through similar emotions of fear, stress, anxiety, anger, frustration, often not knowing what's going on, resentment, partner, you know, might be spending, you know, all the family income, isolation and desperation as well. Obviously, connected with that, the loss of trust.
Often we might see significant others that have turned up and they want their loved one to change and be able to fix them in some way. This model really talks about how you might be able to do the journey alongside them or how you can help move them along, but it's paired with the sort of assistance that they might be able to get at that stage. Once they've made a determination to change and they're putting some things in place, that would be the action phase. So in Tassie we offer face-to-face counselling, we offer family and individual counselling, financial counselling and group support as well.
And exclusions.
And exclusions.
Options for overcoming problem gambling. So what we do is basically making a thorough assessment of the client needs, looking at comorbidity issues, looking at individual behaviour patterns and triggers, what triggers problem gambling, also what could replace problem gambling, because there will be a gap once the client has excluded from gambling. So what else, you know, to do? What else can you do when you are aware that gambling is a problem for someone? Obviously, an empathic and non-judgmental approach is what we would recommend. Recognize that it can be extremely difficult for a person to admit that gambling is causing problems. Recognizing that the person is in their desire to change, or where the person is. So again, looking at the stage of change model, is the person ready to do something about the problem or not? Is the person contemplating to change, or actually thinking about making a call, or has already, started seeking counseling? Recognize that it can be extremely difficult to overcome problem gambling, therefore positive change is valued and reinforced. So lots of positive encouragement is needed.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Do you have any questions?